Welcome to NeuroNoodle's Neurofeedback and Neuropsychology podcast featuring tech legend Jay Gunkelman. He's the man who has read well over 500,000 brain scans, and Dr. Marie Swingle, author of iminds. Our goal is to provide information and promote options for better mental health. The NeuroNoodle podcast is supported by listeners and businesses just like you. Hey, John.
Hey, Pete. How are you, man?
Just like you, man. Busy.
Exactly. God dang. How's your weather, by the way? Are you full in spring now?
Chicago.
You never know. It's day by day.
As long as it's over 20 degrees, I'm short sleeve, man.
Right on. Right on. How are the Cubs going to do this year?
No idea. I wait till October.
That's like all of us. We wait for the postseason.
Right. If they get in there, we're good.
That's right. That's right. Why I can't waste a lot of energy rooting in the early days. The Lakers have disappointed me too often. Hey, sure. Andrew.
How's it going, guys? How are you?
I'm good. This is Pete. This is Andrew.
Andrew, pleasure. Here comes Jay. This is just like a party at the bar. People showing up.
That's it. That's it. I told Andrew, I said, understand, this is very casual. This isn't the Andrew Huberman podcast, where it's all drilled down in science. This is just a conversation. It's fun. Hey, Jay.
Howdy.
Howdy. Andrew, Jay, Andrew. Sorry, Pete.
No, go ahead, John.
No, because Andrew doesn't know. We're all familiar with each other, but
yeah,
Andrew doesn't know Jay, and Jay is. He'll be embarrassed when I say this. He's probably the most experienced QEEG analyst on the planet. I know, but I
like that's a good one.
On the planet, yeah. Well, yeah. He is. So somewhere north of 1 million QEEG reviews in his lifetime. Wow. Is that a fair?
I quit counting. I quit counting in the 90s at 500,000. I don't know what the number would be.
Exactly. Well, so
no clue.
Seven figures. Let's.
It's not relevant at some point, and nobody believes the 500,000. So why come up with an accurate number?
Well, yeah, fair enough. But you have this gift, Jay, which unfortunately the rest of us don't share, of having that eidetic memory. It's like, I saw that pattern in 1982. None of us can do that. So God bless you.
Well,
that's right.
There are some that are unique that if you've seen them before, you can identify them. And some of those are not good, but it's good to be able to spot them.
Exactly. So I figured this would interest you, Jay, just from a straight, neuroscience perspective. This isn't, Pete, I think I told you this up front. We didn't do any neurofeedback, so we can't have that conversation about the efficacy of neurofeedback to make these changes. I was just, you saw it on the video, my mouth fell open. When I saw the TOVA test, I was just like, okay, what?
Well, Dr. Marie will pop in sooner or later. I don't know what countries she's in now.
They're over in Eastern Europe.
That's right. Yeah, she's
at the BFE meeting. So goodness knows what time of day. And last time she popped up on the wrong day, just kind of miscalculating the direction of the turn of the Earth or something. I don't know, but
exactly.
I don't know whether she'll be on or not.
Exactly.
But it is kind of up her alley. She does talk about media exposure, but not so much in the EMF medical exposure as much as just the time spent and quality of what the interaction's like. So
exactly. I didn't want to scare Andrew with EMF exposure science. That's a whole deeper dive.
So John, we're all buds. Andrew, this is the first time showing up at the bar chatting. How do you know Andrew, John?
Well, it was just, thank God for Google algorithms. Somehow he found our office. It's just like, I think, what did you type into the search bar? Neuro brain scans near me or something?
Brain scans, something like that. Looking for individual who looks somewhat like Santa Claus to scam my brain. That's exactly
bless your heart. Yeah, I can't. Starting at end of October, I can't leave my house. It's sad. It's a sad commentary. No, so Andrew just reached out of the blue and said, I'm going to do this thing, and I'd love to get a brain scan and pre and post, and let's see what changes. And I was like, okay. And frankly, I didn't expect much, which I told him at the time. I said, I can't imagine that 30 days is going to move the needle very much, and obviously invested in our own technology of neurofeedback change. I was like, okay, let's give it a whack. Because why not? So that was sort of our introduction. So I didn't know Andrew, had no connection to him. He just walked in blind off the street, and it's been a beautiful relationship.
So Andrew, then what's the story in your own words?
I would say those words are pretty good, but basically as like 2024 started, I decided that I wanted to see if I could go without my phone. I think that, growing up without one and then all of a sudden feeling inundated with a lot of technology lately, I was super curious to see what would happen to me subjectively. And then as I was talking to my contemporaries about it, everyone was like, okay, cool, that's fun, enjoy that. And then when I started to tell people, okay, I'm actually going to go get my brain scanned and see what happened, everyone's faces lit up. I think everyone was more intrigued by like, everyone knows the phone is bad for you. Everyone knows technology is like slowly killing our brains, but nobody really knows what it is exactly doing. So once I realized that was like a trigger point for a lot of people, I decided that I needed to find some place to be able to have data that could back this experiment. And I started doing searches. I didn't want to spend, hundreds of thousands of dollars on fMRIs and trying to, go fully like get the medical community behind me. And I've actually done experience with creating documentaries, one documentary around neurofeedback. So when I saw, John in the center, I kind of was like, okay, I'm familiar with what they do. I understand this, and there'll at least be some metrics for us to be able to show and a larger conversation that ultimately we were able to have just around the brain, how it works, how it's kind of connected with all of this stuff that I was exploring. And I think, I don't think there was anyone who could have done it better than John. So, I mean, everyone said he stole the show.
Well, I think what we're going to do is, I'm trying to think what the thumbnail is going to look like, but it's going to be this big red-haired woman yelling, "You got it all wrong!" But that'll be for the next show.
We'll do a follow-up.
Since we don't have Dr. Marie here, we're getting into addiction, and are we going to talk about our good friend anterior cingulate, John and Jay, or what are we going to do?
Well, what we've got is an N of one case series of exposure that's been discontinued. So it'll be interesting data, but obviously there's anytime you've got a case that you're looking at the impact on a case, you have to take into account that the endophenotype or phenotypes of the individual are going to have an influence on the result. And there may be people with other endophenotypes that would have somewhat different responses to the same same circumstance, and that's normal. I mean, you medications will work with some folks and not others, and there's a meditative style for everybody out there, and it's not always the same. Some people do well with a concentrative meditation, and some with more of a transcendental or a Zen versus yoga. I mean, there's something out there for every type, and seeing objective evidence of the impact on your type or types, and the EEG will end up identifying which endophenotypes are present. And at that point, you'll have the ability to generalize to a certain extent, at least within the phenotype or phenotypes.
This is where it gets high level, Andrew. I probably should have sent you the raw, Jay.
Probably.
I'm sorry. Sorry. I didn't know if you wanted to spend that much time living through 40
Well,
minutes of raw.
that's like step one. And when you take step two without taking step one, you usually find yourself flat on your face, So
Yeah.
and I've quite often refused to look at maps that are present that are without EEG.
Right.
So I'm gonna kind of bite my tongue and let you slide by without the normal where show me the data. I can
Right.
hear Barry yelling from the
Oh,
great beyond, show me the data.
exactly. Andrew, just so you know what Jay is referring to is, normally speaking, Jay would review the raw data to be looking for patterns of behavior that are pre the quantitative analysis of, depending on the program one's using. Yeah. So the raw is really important to look at. I know Tara's really drilled down on all of that in terms of her artifacting and pattern recognition and all the rest of it. And I think you got some of that in the review. But I think Jay's point is extremely well taken. Results will vary. This is specific to your particular brain and perhaps people akin to you.
There are people that have a low voltage fast EEG, and they're going to have a totally different response necessarily to the exposure or lack of exposure. And some people have difficulty with arousal, and some form of stimulation may end up having some positive benefit. We don't know. We haven't done the experiment across the full spectrum of individuals, but that doesn't mean that the N of one data point isn't of interest.
Right. Right. I think it provokes a conversation, just in the larger global scheme of what technology is doing to our brains, just generally.
Yes, and like any pilot, it ends up bringing up more questions than it actually answers. But that's exactly what science does. It's a branching program that keeps branching.
Much to the frustration of our general culture.
So what did Andrew? What'd you find out? I mean, how long did you do it? What before and after? Let's get subjective here. We don't have any doctors here. So.
We can get subjective and we can get objective. We can get both. We can talk about it all. But I went 30 full days without a phone. So the experiment went from January 9th to February 8th of 2024. January 9th, I came in, we scanned my brain. We did all of the, cognitive tests, the quick test, and then the same thing on January 8th, we came back in and did all of the testing. So really like no buffer. It wasn't like I stopped the experiment, went on my phone for a week, and then went back into John. We were really diligent of making sure that everything was done accurately and effectively. Subjectively, I had a lot change for me. I felt a lot more clarity. A couple of things that were really interesting is the first few days I gave up my phone. I couldn't sleep, which I thought it was going to be the exact opposite. I thought I was going to have incredible sleep because I didn't have a screen distracting me. But I think the stimuli, or the ability to use stimuli to wind down, was really something that I didn't realize I was using and needed. And I'm sure a lot of people are using and needing without realizing that, you spend 2 hours on your phone before you go to bed trying to calm yourself down. And it works because, as John always likes to say, cat videos are fun and they're enjoyable for you. But removing that, I had to kind of evaluate my relationship with sleep, with, kind of just general self-care habits. And I take pretty good care of myself, but a lot of what I learned throughout this month was the extra levels where I'm missing it. And then I will just say, and then we can pause, but the most, I think, tangible, and then the most tangible in the QEEG was before the experiment, I was having not issues, but my ability to recall words and to tell stories. I would start a story and then I would stop and be I would forget where my brain was going. And that all completely disappeared. I mean, we'll see if it shows up today on the podcast. If I start telling a story and then I stop and I lose my train of thought, you guys can let me know. But I think that was really a thing that my girlfriend was yelling at me for. She was like, stop telling half stories and like get to the point. And now I don't get yelled at anymore. So I feel like that's subjectively good
Wait
data.
until you turn 55. It comes back, has nothing to do with screen habits.
Dr. Marie Swingle, where are you? What country?
Okay, so greetings from Slovenia. I'm at the BFE where I just presented and actually did a whole day presentation on the effects of screen-based technology on the brain and behavior. Also, we just launched our app. The data is fantastic. But anyways, hello, Andrew. This is your session. I won't hijack it.
No, we figured you'd be into this, Mari.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jay, we got to mind our P's and Q's now.
Yeah.
So Dr. Marie Swingle, author of iminds. I mean, this is right up your alley, internet addiction.
Yeah.
Andrew's here. He 30 days off of the phone. He was just telling us, what he did.
I want to just jump right on in on one of the things he said. Everybody knows about, why we use the tech and about the arousal. But it's also used as a sedative. Right? And there are three reasons why it turns bad. I always say it's not if you do or don't use the technology, it's why and how. So if you use it as an arousal to regulate emotions, whether it's to stimulate you or to sedate you, same difference, just opposite sides of the spectrum. Hey, am I disappearing already?
Oh, you're good.
No, you're good.
You're good. I think you should always do a show from there. So my uneducated brain here, well, actually, it's educated by Netflix and all their mental health shows. I see two of the downfalls of using the technology. Correct me if I'm wrong. The negatives are fear of missing out. So if your notifications are on your whatever the device is and they keep notifying you and you keep looking at it, it disrupts your day and messes you up. Second negative thing that I see is that you're comparing yourself a lot more than you would if you didn't have that. Are those the two big negative ones, or is there more? The panel may answer.
Well, if nobody else does, I will. So why don't I go second? Who else wants to talk?
Well, Andrew, I think in his documentary spoke of the sort of renewed introspective capabilities that had been missing in your life, Andrew. I'm paraphrasing, but that you found more time to be introspective about who Andrew is and what's your purpose in life and all those existential questions that everybody should be answering for themselves, but instead are watching cat videos. So I think that was probably, from my viewing of your piece, the biggest takeaway for me was that you found time to look inward.
Correct.
There doesn't even have to be that big. I mean, just any form of blank space. When you're online too much, blank space becomes a negative space. It becomes a space for anxiety. I don't know if you agree with that, Andrew. And you don't have any time for integration. I mean, we don't have to get that deep in terms of introspection. So just time to integrate and be. And I think one of the big things now is it's not just our avatars and our alter egos, more so for females, Andrew. I don't know about you as a male, but essentially trying to keep up with your own image online. It's like, whoa.
Yeah. I mean, and I think what's interesting, and obviously it's great having all of you guys here from the science perspective. And I think some of the stuff that Jay was saying earlier about like I know myself as a human, and like I am someone who is deep, and I am someone who like has a desire to try to learn more about myself. And I think that probably informed a lot of like what I went through without the phone. So I kind of had an inkling of, all right, I know I'm going to put this thing away. I don't spend a lot of time on social media, period, like before the phone experiment. What I was really doing is like, I would spend a little bit of time at night, which I wanted to get rid of. And I would just find myself like picking it up, but not having anything to do on it. And I didn't like that feeling. And I'm sure we've all done that, where you're like, why am I doing this? Like, it's just like my brain is literally just trying to find something outside of myself to satisfy me. And I think you know, obviously, Pete, to your point, there was this feeling at first of I'm going to miss out on my friends and my connections, and I'm not going to get to talk to anybody. What was really cool is everyone that I told started like emailing me because I had email available for work purposes. And like I hung out with people who I hadn't hung out with at all when I had my phone, because I think there was this like feeling of like he's harder to reach, so I'm going to put more effort in to reaching him. So I think they're like basically all of the fears I had of how society was going to respond fell apart, and like it was actually way more positive. And I think like we're all below the surface of like this sedative or arousal version of technology are looking for more connection, and the phone is an attempt to be able to do that. But I think everybody wants the real thing. And if you can take that, like just that leap to get above the screen, I think it's right there.
Technology's been promised as this, connective platform for us all. And I think maybe what you're saying is it has its limitations, and that we need in real life as well, or on top of, to be truly meaningful. We can make surface level connection through technology, Facebook, Instagram, notifications, messaging, that sort of thing, but it can't take the place of in real life.
It's a disconnector. I mean, the way it was originally designed to be has nothing to do with what it's become. It's a disconnector. And I think a lot of people are just, it's a lot of one way. Okay. And the two way is it's the arousal template that you're playing with on yourself. Right. Andrew, do you have any comments on that? Does that kind of go into your notes on introspection, or what are your thoughts of how you look at things now?
I completely, I couldn't agree more. I think what I was going to say is that technology like almost becomes this like level of undertone current where like you don't have to do anything that you don't want to do anymore. I look at my younger siblings. My girlfriend has younger siblings in their, early teens, and it's just even more and more pervasive the younger you get. I'm 27, so I went 10 years of my life without a phone. I didn't have a phone. And then I got it right at the time where like I was going through puberty, and all of a sudden you go from like, I'm just a kid and I don't really have anything outside of joy and fun to, okay, what is everyone looking at me like now? What is the world inflicting on me? And I think to my luxury I have had is that I've always been somewhat introspective. I've always wanted to be like, okay, I don't like that I feel this way and I want to change it. My younger siblings, I don't think are the same. I think it's more like, okay, I don't like what I feel and I want technology to make me not feel that. And there's no inflection point of, I want this to change. It's kind of like, no, this is good. Like, as long as the technology is here, we're good. I mean, if there was an internet blackout, I don't know what would happen to all of these people, but I think, that's what really concerns me when I look at people that I love, when I look at the next generation, is that it's, it has become really easy to not have to do any of the hard work to understand yourself and try to better yourself. Because even moments that like, you're sitting at the doctor's office and you see some other person and it like makes you think something about yourself. And then you start to like go down just like, even like you were saying, Marie, it doesn't have to be so deep. It can just be like, oh, I just noticed I'm this way and that's interesting. You're now just
noticed something.
Exactly.
Yeah. You weren't fed something. And the fact you not only noticed something, but you processed it.
Yeah.
Right. There's very little processing there's processing within the arousal templates, or but it's an entirely different thing. Yeah.
Just becoming passive receivers of stimulus. With no other interaction. I just take it in. There's no out. There's no internal commentary on what am I receiving and why do I care about it.
Yeah. But I mean, let's also, pause and take a moment in terms of what that literally is doing to the brain, especially, I mean, you were talking about, adolescence. That is a time where we have a little bit of I don't know whether we can call it introspection, but we really become aware of the external lens. And we are, disproportionately delusional about how much that lens is focused on ourselves. Okay, it's kind of a phase where during adolescence we think everybody is seeing that zit, or everybody, right? And when you introduce these technologies, I'm going to be a bit genderist here, especially with females and all the influencers and et cetera, that just exacerbating that, in terms of the crash of the self-esteem, no introspection whatsoever, just this fear of not being good enough, right enough, liked enough, et cetera, et cetera. Andrew, do you mind me asking how old you
are? 27.
Okay. And when did you do this experiment? Was it within the last?
It was in January. So
in January. Okay. Yeah. All right. So yeah, age and stage in life can be extremely relevant here as well.
What next month is Mental Health Awareness Month. It's good that we just have 30 days where we pay attention to it, but that would be kind of an interesting thing where somebody would promote. I'm sure AT&T and T-Mobile and everybody would really get involved as a sponsor. Yeah. Put the phone down for a month or a week.
You know what? As long as you pay your subscription and your monthly fee, they don't really care.
But you break that routine. All the algorithms, the social effect. It's they know what. Don't go for that 15-second video. That 15-second video will suck you into 100 15-second videos. Okay. But mental health, if you step away from it for a period of time, that could be something to promote out there. Does that mean that everybody will just be tied to their laptops?
Probably.
Yeah.
I will say the good part about the laptop was I had this really bad habit of I would check my phone, like check the email on my phone, and I would get a work email, but I'd be like out doing grocery shopping or something. So I can't do anything. Like I work as a videographer and video editor. So like I literally can't do anything from my phone. So for like however long I was out, I was just stressed for no reason. And that was like complete misery. So removing that and being like, work happens when I have my laptop, and when I am off my laptop, it doesn't happen. I think like this post-COVID world where that has bled into itself, right? Where like nobody has, very few people, I guess, have physical locations where they go to work. The boundaries between work and life have really blurred. Having the ability now to, one of the lines John said that I didn't make it into the film was, we have the computing power of, what they used to send the man to the moon. Like this is greater than that. And, I can do my entire job from there if I wanted to. So I think like that, that feeling of attachment, even though the laptop still gives you a lot, I think people would see wild changes just by the like immediacy of the phone being removed.
Yeah, I mean, it's a meat. Well, probably just by size, even as simple as that. But I mean, well, the rest of the panel kind of knows. I've been researching this. Ooh, I'm afraid to say. I think it's 25, 27 years now. But I mean, you referenced it quickly. Like when we first got our first cell phones, they were a godsend because you didn't have to wait at the office 3 more hours for that client to call, okay? And you didn't have to run home to answer the phone, to have a date that night or, those type of things. But it very, very soon, were you bringing your work home or were you bringing home work? And in terms of there's just no escape from anything. Like not too long ago, I mean, Andrew, you're surely too young for this, but nobody would call their spouse at work unless you really needed something. So when you were at work, you were at work. They might call you at 5 to 5, pick up some bread, please, but it was the exception, not the rule. And all of this overlay and intervention, there's no breathing room with it. And now we have the super external social component as well as the cat video. So you have your entertaining coming in and you have your social judgment coming in.
Now we have an AI fix for the social insecurity. People have filters now that can make them look different than they actually look. And the filters that can change how you look end up changing a lot of the angst. But it's artificial. I mean, who are you? And, you know, I mean, I could look different than this.
Me too.
Hey,
But
it's going offline now. That's the problem because we started.
Yeah.
I no apologies. I'm gonna the duck lips. Okay, people used to accentuate them in their avatars, and now they're doing it with plastic surgery. Botox, Botox. Preventative Botox. There's not a wrinkle on the face. Also, what is it? Retinol. I think you were talking about that last week. All of these things, and it's very obvious, by the way, here in Europe, the type of makeup the young women are wearing. Now, I'm not anti-makeup. I love my bright red lipstick. Don't take it away from me, please. But in terms of the foundations, that the smoothing of the skin that the young women are doing, just to kind of have that smooth look that the filters are giving. So it's getting really creepy. I'm not sure that applies to you, Andrew. Are you using lots of foundation these days?
I mean, if I'm doing it and you can't tell, then I think I'm doing a good job,
Yeah, yeah.
I think there's a fair number of us that are just covering it over.
So
Should
technology.
I try that?
So technology is great. It helps speed up a process. And what I've seen in companies is they have a problem and they're going to buy some type of technology to fix it, but they don't have an underlying process to begin with. Like they can't figure out what they're going to do on a piece of paper, yet they have this technology. So life is all about feedback. And if your life doesn't have any process to it, let's just say goals, or we'll insert whatever here, you just have all this feedback happening and you don't have a needle on your compass. You don't know where you're going. And then you kind of veer off into the dark end when you're comparing, hey, you know what? I see what my friend looks like with all the filters on and duck lips and all that crap. And I don't know where I'm grounded. Okay. And if I don't know where I'm grounded, then you know what? That's a negative. And I don't know why why am I on this earth? I don't want to get too deep now, but for those types of people that don't have a direction where they're going for, life process, this technology could be
Isn't
more.
helping.
Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, it gets down to the basics of, what's your purpose in life? People hate to get to the basics like that, but for the people that can't answer that, this technology just steers them off. Your thoughts, anyone?
Yeah, what shocked me, Jay and I are similar generation. Mari, Pete, you guys are somewhat younger, but I can see a trajectory. What Andrew's referring to is his concern over the slightly younger people than himself, who are truly digital natives. These people have grown up with phones since their birth. That's a very different perspective. I remember getting my first cell phone and reluctantly, because driving in my car was the only time you couldn't reach me, which I thought was amazing. And I wanted to hold on to it for as long as possible. I'm pulling an Andrew now, and my train of thought just went off the rails. No, it's so.
Are you over 55?
Yes, I am. There you go.
Welcome to the show.
I think what is concerning is us mindful of this problem. Mari, you're certainly in the forefront of this. Is somebody was writing a piece about it's a job category, an aspiration at this point for young people to be an influencer. And I was just like, what is that life goal? That is a digital relationship job. So it's not, I'm going to influence other people through my video, my internet messaging, purpose.
Yeah, but John, let's just take it down a level. I don't, with all due respect, I see it through a different lens. It's like, I want to be a rock star. I want to be famous and I want to make a lot of money. Okay. And put in a little model component in there and look really beautiful. Right. So, and if you look at who were the first influencers, okay, those bloody Kardashians.
Probably Plato. but
Plato on the face? No?
My concern is the superficiality of that aspiration. I mean, it's fine to have, if you want to be a rock star, you got to play the guitar. You have to be able to create pieces of music. You have to be able to do something.
Thank you.
Not just interface from a sales perspective of, this is a beautiful thing, you should buy it. I don't even know what that is. There's nothing wrong with being a salesman.
Yeah. I can run and run and run and run on this one. It's kind of like somebody who says they want to be a brewmaster, and how do they train themselves? They don't train themselves by drinking beer. They train themselves by looking at different grains and chemistry and whatnot. So I think that speaks exactly to what you were saying. Yeah, it's the same thing as professional gamers, right? One in a gazillion make it, right? And how many, just lost lives, more mature males just corroding in their parents' basements, because they want to be professional gamers. Yeah. Oh,
so the capitalist system will figure it out for us. Is that okay? This is like, how many people become professional athletes? How many people become, high-level academicians?
Have they figured out the drug trade?
Yeah, good point.
Legalize everything. Andrew, you see the young kids out there. Do you think they want to just be told what to do versus figuring things out for themselves?
That's an interesting one. I was going to speak on even just the influencer side of it, just because I feel like I'm slightly in that, bucket a little bit. I don't want to be an influencer personally. I think that's something that I thought about a couple of years ago, when it was like, it looks fun, right? Like when you see it as a young person, you're like, okay, I can just make videos with my friends and that can be like a career. Like, that's crazy. For me, it's become way more of a passion in like the actual filmmaking and trying to build a skill that's like marketable and usable. But I think, Pete, what you were saying earlier is like, I think this really does get to like, what is your purpose in life? And I think that a lot of young people don't know. All of my friends right now are like going to grad school. And I'm like, what are you going to grad school for? And they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, so you're just going to blow $200,000 for an I don't know. And I'm like, that's insane. Like, I don't fully know what I want to do. I know I'm trying to figure it out. Hence all of these crazy experiments I put myself through in an attempt to figure it out. Because I think there is this era of, when I was growing up, and a lot of my contemporaries, we were kind of told like, do what you want, do what makes you happy. And I feel like it's almost like the first time in the history where like that is the case. It's like, whatever you want, whatever's going to make you happy, do. And you're like, I don't know what that means. I feel like, it would almost have been easier if it was like, go get a job, like just hard stop, doesn't matter what it is. I think easier versus like a really like, fulfilling life is a different conversation we can have. I'm a fan of the latter, but to round it out and answer your question fully, I think it is attractive to be told what to do. I don't think it leads to ultimate happiness. I think people want to figure it out for themselves. But I think right now what has happened is there's no roadmap and there's a lot more obstacles. So even though there hasn't been a roadmap before, now there's just a lot more things that we can fall prey to, and you can, end up getting 10 years down the line and you're like, I don't really know what I'm doing. A GRE test with a grad school application sounds pretty good right now because it gives me structure that I had when I was in my early 20s and, felt the same way I'm feeling now. So let's do that. And I think, as you age and, the COVID kind of time block has really made things weird for a lot of people that at least I talk to. They're like, I feel like 3 to 6 years of my life have just kind of disappeared, and I don't really know how to cope with that. And I think we'll just see people like shoot off into different paths and just be like, you know what, this is just what I'm going to do, and I'll just deal with it. But you know, that's sad.
Can I make a comment that'll make everybody hate me? Yeah. These are beyond first world privilege problems. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, the whole, like, who's paying the college bills? Okay, whether it's family or student loans. You know, we have the privilege of discomfort and not knowing what we want to do. We have the privilege of exploration, the, you know, the elusive happiness, right? I don't, you know, what's better, what's worse, you know, but if you had to lay bricks to put a roof over your head and feed yourself, and then in the evenings you painted because you really wanted to be a quote unquote artist, right? It used to be a time where there was incredible risk to saying, I'm not going to lay bricks, I'm going to paint, right? So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think somebody, you know, in my age classification and older, we have to be very, very hard of, you know, speaking, you know, aggressively or judgmentally. But I do think that there's a positive about the freedom to not have the path of a donkey, you know, pulling the cart all the time. But I don't know what's happened between the freedom of seeking your own future and being, you know, pulling the being the donkey, that so many people are getting lost in that middle. And why are they getting lost in that middle, right?
Well, if life's all about feedback, Andrew, you're an interesting age, 27. 27, back when I was in the corporate world leading people, that was an interesting age because that's when people started figuring things out. That's when Major League Baseball players, that's when you spend money on them for big contracts, because at age 27, they figure things out. If life is all about feedback, and we've run into this problem, at least that I've seen, is, you know, when I grew up, I said, you know what, I'm going to work hard so my kid has a better life than me. Well, if my kid has a better life than me, that means they have less feedback than I've gotten, that I haven't figured out that there's a trade-off between lifestyle and the amount of work you want to put in to get to that lifestyle. If you're at 27 now, if Andrew's at 27, I'll ask Jay, Dr. Marie, and John, is the current generation pushed back 5 years, 10 years? You know, like today's 27-year-old is like the 18-year-old X amount of years ago.
I'm going to jump in. It's a fact. This is the work of Dr. Twingy, actually. And yeah, your average 18-year-old has the maturity of a 14-year-old. The average 24-year-old has the maturity of an 18-year-old. And this is where we don't blame the adolescents and the youth now. It was a big switch in parenting style, where children, we wanted to, same thing, we wanted to prevent the negative feedback to the kids. So we protected. So we had a whole generation, and I think we're now in the second half generation, that has not been exposed to negative or uncomfortable feedback. So that when you do get negative feedback, you can't handle it. Your physiology and your neurophysiology is just not prepared for it. Hence, so much anxiety, so much depression. And Andrew, just to loop you back in terms of not knowing what you want to do, could that be because you haven't had enough experience of what you don't want to do? You know, I don't know. I mean, I think these are really, really good conversations, and they need to be multi-generational. Okay. And I also think we also need to have big ears in terms of what each generation is saying. But my professional opinion is I think there were massive errors in parenting in trying to protect. And we did not get enough of the negative feedback. What's the youth perspective there, Andrew?
The voice of a generation.
You're wrong. You're all wrong.
No, seriously.
No, I agree. You know, I think I've had the good fortune of, I've had 3 to 4 different careers since the time I graduated college till now. So I've gotten a lot personally in understanding what I don't like.
Any of them bricklaying?
Yeah. The bricklaying was fun. I actually really enjoy, I enjoy manual labor a lot. It's very soothing for my brain. Editing is basically like digital bricklaying. So, I'm the new age bricklayer. I do think that there is a struggle for a lot of people in the sense that, like, now that you can see what people are capable of, it's almost like everyone feels like they're either a CEO of a company or, a multi-million-dollar influencer or, something that like just feels like, even for me, from the outside, you look at it and you're like, I can do that. What they don't tell you is that if you want to be the founder of a company, it's like hiking Mount Everest without a map. Like, you are going to fail. Like, you have to be willing to take that potential to fail. And not every person is capable of being the number one, right? That's why there are multiple companies that have more than one person. So I think, to me, that's what feels like the issue has become, is that, yes, I do agree, Marie, that we've all been way too protected, and that has caused like this lack of feedback. But I also think there's either sometimes too much like blindness to, okay, this level of achievement is easy and anyone can do it. And then I think you start and there's like a little bit of friction, and it's like there's no ability to deal with any level of friction because of the protectiveness. So it's like everybody wants to be the greatest. Everybody wants to be uber successful. I mean, I feel like that's what we all want as people anyway. But, I think a lot of people earlier on would look at that and be like, okay, that's not exactly what I want. Like, my priorities are, I want to make a good living. I want to have a family. I want to, be able to enjoy myself on a Sunday. I don't think everyone grew up being like, I want to work 7 days a week, 80 hours, a week. I want to just grind it out so that I can build one of the biggest companies in the world. And I think we're now trying to do the latter with like the mindset of the former, which is like, I want to be able to go out and party on the weekends and not worry about anything. But I also want like a multi-billion-dollar company. That should just be easy, right?
I want it all. I want it all.
And do you think, Andrew, that the feed that you are receiving every day on your phone is promoting that disconnect?
Well, I don't receive a feed on a phone right now, John.
Okay, but I mean, no, in other words, the superficiality, from my perspective, the superficiality of success. A guy in a he's got an Aston Martin and a wad of cash. I mean, it has no context. Where'd the Aston Martin come from? Where's the cash come from? What does he actually do? What is he providing? It's not just that 15-second video clip of him looking successful.
Yeah. I think I do think it does. I think a lot of the media that people have, there's reasons that certain people have taken off. I guess the example that comes to mind most prevalently is, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Andrew Tate and how all of that kind of spurned up a couple of years ago with like the young male generation of wanting to aspire to a guy who was frankly like horrible in emotional integrity and like the way he treated people. And it's like that, I think all of a sudden people are like, if I want success, I have to be like that. I don't hold the door open for women. I don't do anything that and just the general level of kindness for another human being that you lose because you're like, success equals looking out for myself and myself only. And I think, that to me is where I feel like social media can really go awry, is that you see things and you mimic what you see. And obviously the stuff that is going to succeed is going to be on the other sides of the spectrum, right? It's either going to be like extremely nice and you see the like really sweet people helping homeless people and it plugs at your heartstring, or you see the opposite side of it where somebody is an absolute insert your desired profanity there and you're like, that's what I need to be in order to be successful. And I think that like,
hey team, this delay in feedback, do you think Candor plays a role? Candor, direct communication, because people are afraid to communicate. You're afraid to, what is your pronoun? I mean, I'm sure I'm going to get all the emails now, but seriously, it's like you want to give direct, quick feedback so the person can get better, but I'm wondering, Andrew, at the younger generation, it's you don't want to give anything negative, so when omission by commission, when somebody does something and you don't say anything about it, you're implying it's okay. And then they go out throughout their lives doing this without somebody giving them that negative feedback because they're afraid of giving them candor and direct feedback. And that's why things are getting delayed. Do you see that, Andrew?
Definitely. I was actually just talking about this last night, but if any of you guys saw the video, there's a point that John was talking about at the end of this little documentary that we made where two of the people that I'm really close with basically like sat me down and like told me what they were seeing from the outside. And I am very fortunate that I have friends like that is in various buckets of my life. That has happened like 6 times in the last week alone, just because of what we're working on next is causing people to be like, hey, man, I got to tell you what I'm seeing because, the way you're acting right now is not, indicative of who you want to be. And we know that. And I think I'm lucky that I have friends who I've let them know that that's what I appreciate. And I think that they want to be able to see me succeed. So it all comes from a place of love. But we're all, into our late 20s and early 30s. So it's like the younger you get, the less that exists. Because I think it is really uncomfortable to do. But it also shows you care. And I think that that's something that people don't recognize is that like harsh feedback comes from a place of love, unless it's like just unnecessarily harsh. But usually it's like an acknowledgement of, I want you to be happy. And what I'm seeing is, this is how you approach your life and this is how you think about things. And if you, take a second to look at that, you might be happier. And I feel like that's all we're searching for anyway, is like, we just want to be able to enjoy life. And if there's something getting in the way of that, I would want someone to tell me. And because of that, I try to be, radically honest with the people in my life, but that can also lead to people not wanting to be in your life. So you kind of have to like weigh the odds of, or at least know, and this is something that John and I talked about too throughout this experience, is like, what does it actually mean to have a real friend? Like, what is a real friend and what is just an internet acquaintance that like you're removed from and, there's not that level of closeness, because a real friend will tell you, what they see, and it won't break up the friendship. It'll actually like bring you guys closer.
Yeah.
Bingo. Somebody who knows your truth, has your heart, has your back, can tell you the truth and it doesn't offend you. It might shock you a bit, you might have to process, but it doesn't offend you. There's good research on this, including mine, that no human being can have more than 50 friends, and even that's high, because the whole nature of a friendship is you have to interact in a way to maintain each other, to maintain that bond. And another little part B on that is, who are you getting your feedback from? If you're getting your feedback from mysterious strangers, you either want that feedback, you're playing with your own ego, whether you're a troll and you really enjoy the negative repartee, so you're doing that for your own emotional stimulation, or on the other side, absolute opposite. Even people in my profession, Jay is old enough and whatnot, he don't care no more. But I'm teasing you there, Jay, with love and respect.
When did Jay care what he says?
Culture. Sorry? Yeah.
When did Jay care what he says?
That's true. No, but I want to talk about this whole cancel culture. I mean, the pendulum swing from people being racist, misogynist, obnoxious, to not being able to share and process. And even if you misspeak, or if you have some kind of perspective that would really be wise to reevaluate, you are no longer given the opportunity to reevaluate. Your head is chopped off. You can't get anywhere when you lose your ears and your head. Andrew, do you want to comment? Because this is I think your generation grew up in that. No? Did you know the world before cancel culture?
I have to say that I don't think I was a representative of anybody other than myself. I was a spoiled kid from a well-to-do family, and I've always basically been self-guided. And cared very little for kind of the rules of what you should be doing And I'm a devout hedonist, and I've always done what I damn well pleased. So that it's not advisable. I mean, people talk to me. I actually suggest that they actually do get their PhD if they're going to be doing therapy as a, in their future. I'm a tech, but the folks who end up using my services are the ones who are providing the therapy, and they end up having to have some level of credentials. So I do recommend don't do what I do. Do something a little bit more of a traditional route to it. But my uh, uh, my pathway was odd, and I think Willie Nelson says step over my trail, and if I think that's a good idea. Don't follow me. Step over my trail. It's not a proper way to have done things. I got to my end point of having followed my joy of following the data to end up knowing a lot about EEG in a depth that allowed me to be a world expert with being just a tech. I see, for instance, right now over in Slovenia, you've got Santiago Brand, who he and I go back and forth. I'm a glorified tech, and he considers himself a glorified tech, proudly as a glorified tech.
He's stolen your terminology there, Jay.
Yeah, and rightfully so. He's gained the skill set, decades worth of dedicated focus on EEG. So he's now doing international travel and teaching, as I did when I could, and I can't now. So it's I'm happy to see. He considers himself my student, but I say we're all students of the EEG. There's nobody that actually can master it. So if you see somebody who says they've mastered it, run. It's too complex for any brain to hold within it knowledge of the brain. But the solution to that is a network of brains can hold within the network an understanding of the brain. So you just have to network with people that have other pieces of the puzzle and end up being able to kind of cross-pollinate to come up with the next step forward. And
I think to segue on that, Jay, and kind of loop back into, or to integrate that with what we were chatting about, I think that's hitting the nail on the head there. We're all highly individualistic, judging ourselves and others without integrating a lot of the information. And you can say that in a larger sense, whether it's academic information, whether it's how your nose looks, whether it's what you eat for breakfast. I just see that's a bit of a caveat of the phone and the online culture, right? As you said, to many brains and minds solving things together, as opposed to the influencer capitalist and cancel culture. Oh, I'm going to shut up. I'm getting negative.
Marie, I wanted to bring up, you said something about parenting and overprotectiveness, that overprotected. Have we done enough to protect young people from the internet?
Nothing. We've done absolutely nothing.
So oddly, we protect them in some areas, but not this one.
Well, no, I mean, one of the things, the parents are so present offline and completely absent online. It's absolutely absurd. I'm overjoyed. France a few years ago banned cell phones in school. Right. Florida has just banned social media, or you need parental permission 14. The Nordic countries were much ahead of this than we were. They told people not bring their phones to school. They said, bring them and we're going to learn how to use them.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's heard about my 3 Ps. One device that you give to an 8-year-old, okay, now it's 8, sometimes it's even younger. And on that same device, that child has complete access to the good, the fun, and the really bad. And my 3 Ps are Pythagoras theorem, your education, Pokemon, fun, and porn. In what universe? Like what? Like just giving your child a device with porn, and porn isn't like soft or it's
it's creepy.
porn.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, so Andrew,
we have to learn how to. We have to, and the children are teaching the adults how to use it.
Okay, I'm that guy. I go to my daughter when I need something on the internet. She can do it for me in 5 seconds, and I'd be there for a week. Andrew, what do you think in terms of your concern about your younger, the cousins, nieces, nephews? What I can't remember the relationship. The concern you might have for the generation slightly below yours in terms of their ability to discern how to use this technology.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of things here. I think the most important one to me, and at least what I've seen, is that, and this was going to get to Marie's point. I know she was going to ask me about my take on cancel culture and how I feel growing up in it. And, I think we've become a society that likes to connect. I mean, we like to connect. We're connection beings, right? Like that's kind of our thing. Our new version of connecting is how can we all connect to some greater good of like canceling one individual because it feels gratifying. You're like, that person's horrible. We're going to put him down as a society and we're now connected. I think what I realized in the experiment and what I think holds true for anybody anywhere is that anytime we're using something too much, it's not because of the thing, it's because of what we're trying to run away from into the thing. So I think, we have a generation of people who, whether it's, deep-seated trauma or just like low-level melancholy and depression, like we're just not dealing with any of these things. We're using the phone, we're using medication, we're using porn, we're using anything that we can use so that we don't have to feel the stuff that we don't want to feel. And that's going to create a huge problem, right? Like, I mean, the kids now who have no ability to like deal with any of their shit, having kids who they can't teach how to deal with anything at this point, to me feels like a recipe for disaster. So I think like my advice is like, and I don't even know if this is advice. I mean, this is just what I'm doing so that this doesn't happen to me, is just trying to find time to take space from it, trying to find time to take space from the whole ecosystem of like just inundation, because without it, like, I don't know how you can even know who you are, what you want to do, and how you want to show up in the world, right? Like, these aren't things that as a young person you have locked in stone. Like, these should be continually being evaluated. And right now it's like, I don't even know what my morals are because I have to Google the word morals to figure it out first. So I think
it comes down to the most simplistic terms: values, goals, beliefs, and it doesn't so much come from what your parents tell you, but what you observe, what your parents do, I believe. Andrew and John, we're at time, and we didn't do justice to all the stuff that you sent over regarding the experiment. Andrew, I'm going to throw this offer out to you, since I'm an over glorified video editor. If I gave you the raw copy and you'd like to piece this thing together, no egos here, brother. You got 2 weeks. You include the video that you sent over and all that stuff, piece it together. We'll run it by Jay and Marie. Everybody gives a thumbs up. We put it out there. It's a piece of work from Andrew Feinstein. What do you think?
We can talk about it, Pete. I have
That's a no. See, just say no.
I want to be able to help, but I was just gonna say
we're you to do the work, Pete.
We're deep in the middle of our next project, which I know Marie is gonna be interested in from something she said, and she might explode the experiment before it even starts. But the next video that's coming out in hopefully 2 weeks is we wanted to see if it was possible to make a best friend in 48 hours. So I took a complete stranger and we spent a weekend together going through physical, mental, emotional like challenges to see how close we could get as friends. Speed dating. Pretty much speed dating with another man. Yeah, it was
hey. So John, where do we send people to find out more about your business? Since you've come on here, let's give you a little shout out.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that very much. Thebalancedbrain.com, neurofeedback in North Hollywood, California. So if you're a local metropolitan area, we can certainly be of help. Other than that, go on our YouTube channel. Like Pete, we also have one, and some of your stuff's on there. So there's a raft of information about neurofeedback, et cetera, et cetera. But you have to be a local to work with me, unfortunately.
We'll send Alec Baldwin your way. Andrew, where do we send people more to learn about you and your skills?
We send people to the Balanced Brain in North Hollywood.
Okay.
No, I will say none of this.
I'm old and retired, and I only do one event a year. In October for my birthday, I throw a 3-day EEG meeting and ongoing party for my birthday. So the Sassoon Summit, which is just got its registration page opened up, so people that are interested in doing that can pop in and spend kind of a raucous 3-day EEG meeting and rolling party. So
have a drink with Dr. Marie, Jay, and Pete.
Exactly.
Dr. Marie, thank you for turning in from Slovenia or wherever the heck you are. Say hi to Santiago. Andrew and John, when you complete that other experiment, let's get back together. And Andrew, you have time, maybe you want to edit this video. Take care, all.
Say no, Pete. I'm saying no now. Here we go. This is the radical.
There we go. Good.
What I would suggest is that when your next experiment is wrapped up, that we bring you back and go through the data on this one and your new experiment, and have more of a data-oriented run through on the current data set and also your next experiment.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And visit Andrew's got a YouTube page where you can find this video, obviously. But
what is it, Andrew?
It's just my name, Andrew Feinstein. You can check it out. Our whole kind of purpose is just experiencing life, trying to figure out all these questions that we've been talking about today through just, anything that I can come up with that feels like it's worth putting myself through. So anything you guys have too, if you guys want a human guinea pig to put through an experience, that's basically what I am in a nutshell.
Just a little sidebar. One of the things that I loved about, sorry, Mary. One of the things that I loved about Andrew's documentary was, as he was going through this experience, he was reading the book Deep Work, which is just the juxtaposition of that. I just went, because it's shout out to that. I can't remember the author's name at this point. It's a terrific book. But
Andrew, your nickname's going to be N1. Have a great weekend, all.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
All right, bye-bye. The Neuronoodle podcast is supported by listeners and businesses just like you.